Hi, so today I'll be talking about vaccines. Every year, tens of thousands of Americans get sick from diseases that could be prevented by vaccines. My reason for selecting this topic is because it can be difficult for people in the United States to fully understand how important vaccination is, because many diseases are becoming very rare, largely because of vaccination. This causes information to be skewed, and people think they do not need them, when really the necessity for them is what causes less people to need and get them. Another common misconception is that only children need vaccines, which is not true. Adults also need vaccines. Age alone increases the risk of potentially serious lung infections for more than 47 million Americans over the age of 65, because the body's immune system naturally weakens with age. Now I would like to talk about debunking some myths. The first and most popular myth is that vaccines cause autism. The widespread fear that vaccines increase risk of autism originated with a 1997 study published by Andrew Wakefield, a British surgeon. The article was published in The Lancet, a prestigious medical journal, suggesting that the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine was increasing autism in British children. The paper has since been completely discredited due to serious procedural errors, undisclosed financial conflicts of interest, and ethical violations. Andrew Wakefield lost his medical license, and the paper was retracted from The Lancet. Nonetheless, the hypothesis was taken seriously, and several other major studies were conducted. None of them found a link between any vaccine and the likelihood of developing autism. The second one is that infant immune systems can't handle so many vaccines. Infant immune systems are stronger than you might think. Based on the number of antibodies present in the blood, a baby would theoretically have the ability to respond at around 10,000 vaccines at one time. Even if all 14 scheduled vaccines were given at once, it would only use up slightly more than 0.1% of a baby's immune capacity, and scientists believe this capacity is purely theoretical. The immune system could never truly be overwhelmed because the cells in the system are constantly being replenished. Children have been successfully vaccinated for decades. Babies are exposed to countless bacteria and viruses every day, and immunizations are negligible in comparison. As for immediate danger from vaccines in the form of allergic reactions or severe side effects, the incidence of death are so rare they can't even truly be calculated. For example, only one death was reported to the CDC between 1990 and 1992. That was attributable to a vaccine. The overall incidence rate of severe allergic reaction to vaccines is usually placed around one case for every 1 or 2 million injections. The last one I want to talk about is that vaccines can infect someone's child with the disease it's trying to prevent. Vaccines can cause mild symptoms resembling those of the disease they are protecting against. A common misconception is that these symptoms signal infection. In fact, in the small percentage, which is less than 1 in 1 million cases, where symptoms do occur, the vaccine recipients are experiencing a body's immune response to the vaccine, not to the disease itself. There is only one recorded instance in which a vaccine was shown to cause disease. This was the oral polio vaccine, which is no longer used in the U.S. Since then, vaccines have been safe for use for decades and follow the strict FDA regulations. Now I will be talking about why vaccines are important. Every year, tens of thousands of Americans get sick from diseases that could be prevented by vaccines. Some people are hospitalized, some even die. Immunization is our best protection against these diseases. Vaccines are recommended for children, teens, and adults based on different factors like age, health conditions, lifestyle, jobs, and travel. CDC and other medical experts update vaccine recommendations every year based on the latest research and science. Vaccination is a critical step in protecting those that are most vulnerable to illness: infants and young children, the elderly, and those whose chronic conditions and weakened immune systems. As citizens, we should trust medicine to be on our side and do our part as they are trying to help us reach a bigger goal for our society. The positive and negatives of pros and cons, you could say, vary. We will start with the cons. The first one is that vaccines can cause serious and sometimes fatal side effects. According to the CDC, all vaccines carry a risk of life-threatening allergic reactions in about 1 per million children. The next one is that vaccines contain harmful ingredients. Aluminum is used in some vaccines, and excess aluminum in human bodies can cause neurological harm. Formaldehyde, also found in some vaccines, is a carcinogen, and according to vaxtruth.org, exposure can cause side effects such as cardiac impairment, central nervous system depression, changes in higher cognitive functions, coma, convulsions, and death. Again, the chances for that are 1 per million. The last con is that vaccines are unnatural and natural immunity is more effective than vaccination. Even pro-vaccine organizations state that natural vaccination causes better immunity. The Children's Hospital of Philadelphia notes that it is true that natural infection almost always causes better immunity than vaccines, whereas immunity from disease often follows a single natural infection. Immunity from vaccines occurs only after several doses. Mayo Clinic states that natural infection often provides more complete immunity than a series of vaccinations. Some of the pros are 1. Vaccines can save children's lives. The American Academy of Pediatrics states that most childhood vaccines are 90 to 99% effective in preventing disease. According to ShotLife and United Nations Foundation partner organizations, vaccines have saved 2.5 million children from preventable diseases every year, which equates to roughly 285 children saved every hour. The Centers for Disease Control, CDC, estimated that childhood immunization prevented about 419 million illnesses, 26.8 million hospitalizations, and 936,000 early deaths of children born between 1994 and 2018. The measles vaccine has decreased childhood deaths from the measles by 74%. Pro 2, which cancels out one of the cons, is that the ingredients in vaccines are actually safe in the amounts used. Ingredients such as thimerosal, formaldehyde, and aluminum can be harmful in large doses, but they are not used in harmful quantities in vaccines. Children are exposed to more aluminum in breast milk and infant formula than they are exposed to in vaccines. Paul Offit, MD, notes that children are exposed to more bacteria, viruses, toxins, and other harmful substances in 1 day of normal activity than there are in vaccines. With the exception of inactivated flu vaccines, thimerosal has been removed or reduced to trace amounts in vaccines for children under 6 years old. The FDA requires up to 10 or more years of testing for all vaccines before they are licensed, and then they are monitored by the CDC and FDA to make sure that the vaccines and ingredients used in the vaccines are safe. Pro 3 is that vaccines protect the herd. Herd immunity or community immunity means that when a critical portion, the percent of people who need to be vaccinated to provide herd immunity of a population, is vaccinated against a contagious disease, it is unlikely that an outbreak of the disease will occur, so most members of the community will be protected. Pro 4 is that vaccines protect future generations. Vaccinated mothers protect their unborn children from viruses that could potentially cause birth defects, and vaccinated communities can help eradicate diseases for future generations. Before the rubella vaccine was licensed in 1969, a global rubella, which is German measles, outbreak caused the death of 11,000 babies and birth defects in 20,000 babies between 1963 and 1965 in the United States. Women who were vaccinated as children against rubella have greatly decreased the chance of passing the virus to their unborn or newborn children, eliminating the birth defects such as heart problems, hearing and vision loss, congenital cataracts, liver and spleen damage, and mental disabilities associated with the disease. The last pro is that vaccine-preventable diseases have not disappeared, so vaccination is still necessary. The CDC notes that many vaccine-preventable diseases are still in the United States or only a plane ride away. Although the paralytic form of polio has largely disappeared thanks to vaccination, the virus still exists in Afghanistan, Nigeria, and Pakistan, where there were 415,103,010 cases, respectively, between January 2014 and May 14, 2019. The polio virus can be incubated by a person without symptoms for years. That person can then accidentally infect an unvaccinated child or adult, in whom the virus can mutate into its paralytic form and spread amongst unvaccinated people. Now here are some statistics. Here's child immunization in Minnesota. Here are some vaccinations. And here are some age groups and vaccines. I am someone who believes in God, and although I sometimes do not agree with some of the Christian beliefs, I'm really in touch with my spirituality and actually love and honor the Lord. That being said, I want to talk about how the topic of vaccines affects my faith. Across the country, there have been over 600 cases in 22 states, spurring several state proposals that, in an effort to protest against the spread of disease, would restrict parental rights and religious freedoms for families who skip immunizations due to their faith convictions. Measles has seen a 30% increase globally, something the World Health Organization attributes to vaccine hesitancy in countries that had practically eliminated the disease. This could look like a challenge just because I know there are religious reasons that people do not get vaccines, but they are more moralistic rather than biblical. So I respect why some people fight for the choice, but I do not see most of the reasons as a real challenge to vaccines or my faith, and would still personally get to choose vaccines. Overall, the impact that it has had on my lifestyle is that although there are some very, very small risks, I truly believe in vaccines. I believe in protecting the herd as well as getting more people to trust in science. I do respect everyone's decisions, but I will be getting vaccinated as well as my children in the future. I will advocate, not push for them, and continue to trust science and the fact that God does not want to see his people sick.